everyone. So for this week's like readings and stuff, before I mostly thought that like genes and genetics were pretty basic, and I understood that genes are like segments of DNA that determine traits, and that some genetic engineering like involved editing DNA to prevent or treat disease and stuff like that. I honestly saw it in a somewhat like simplified mechanical way, kind of like from biology and stuff, and that they were straightforward like on and off switches that scientists could tweak pretty fairly easily. And I also tend to think of like genetic engineering mainly in terms of like medical progress, like curing cancer or preventing disorders. And so then two things kind of stuck out for me. First, I thought it was cool how like complex gene regulation is, and it's not just one gene controlling one trait. Instead of like it's a network of genes, and they all interact together. And that complexity made me realize that like how limited our control really is, and that genetic engineering isn't just editing a single typo in a sentence, but it's more like editing one word in an entire like library and hoping that nothing else changes. And that definitely like made my view change of how precise and predictable like the technology actually is. And then second, the article Down syndrome in the image of God made me really think about like disability and genetic improvement. And I used to assume that if we had the ability to eliminate a condition like Down syndrome, that would obviously be good. But the article kind of made me think about what that assumption communicates. And it's that if we like treat genetic conditions as problems to erase, are we like unintentionally saying that people who live with these conditions are like less valuable than the rest of us? And that really kind of challenged me because it reframed the issue from just like curing disease to protecting like our dignity as humans. And I think my faith plays a role in how I process all of this. As a Christian, I believe that like every person is made in the image of God, and that means human value isn't placed on like intelligence or productivity or physical ability, but it's inherent. So while I see like genetic engineering as a potential tool for healing, I also believe that we have to approach it with like a humility, and that we're not ultimate creators, but we're stewards. And there's a difference between alleviating suffering and like trying to redefine what it means to be human. And so I think the author of that article suggests that Christians navigate the tension between this optimism and humility by holding two truths, which is on one side, we can affirm that medical advances seek to heal and reduce suffering, but on the other hand, we must resist the mindset of control or designing better humans according to cultural standards. And that article kind of encourages discernment of asking like, can we do this? And we can, but should we? And what vision of like humanity does this promote? And so I think the author calls Christians to approach like genome editing with compassion and moral caution and a deep commitment to the dignity of every human life.